Jamal Khashoggi, he's the Saudi journalist, worked for the Washington Post. He covered the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, 79, 89. He was very close to the Saudi Arabian royal family, and later fell out. And then he kind of sort of exiled himself to the US, right? I think around 2017. And in 2018, Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, he had him assassinated, right? Where? In Turkey, in Istanbul, right? So he was going to, Khashoggi, he was going to the Saudi consulate to pick up a certificate that he's divorced so that he can marry his Turkish fiancée, if I recall correctly, and he never came out. They killed him and they chopped up his body and got rid of him. Keep in mind, this guy's a US resident, okay? Now, we've just had a report released by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Remember, there's a woman heading it now, Avril Haines, co-author, let's say, of the Obama drone program. Yeah, her, former deputy of the CIA. Oh, I love me some diverse imperialists, don't you? So now the US government is saying that, yes, it's true. It's confirmed in their opinion. I mean, we've known this for years, but the US government is admitting, at least publicly now, that they know Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, murdered Khashoggi, a Saudi journalist living in the United States. Okay, so I want to show you this now. And here's the report. Okay, so this was published by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, right? So it's very short, actually. I'll just read you the main points. So they say here, we assess that Saudi Arabia's crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, approved an operation in Istanbul, Turkey, to capture or kill Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. We base this assessment on the crown prince's control of decision-making in the kingdom since 2017, the direct involvement of a key advisor and members of Mohammed bin Salman's protective detail in the operation, RIF, and the crown prince's support for using violent measures to silence dissidents abroad, including Khashoggi. Since 2017, the crown prince has had absolute control of the kingdom's security and intelligence organizations, making it highly unlikely that Saudi officials would have carried out an operation of this nature without the crown prince's authorization. Okay? So, I mean, that's pretty much just common sense, the last part, at the very least. But nonetheless, so the first point, at the time of the Khashoggi murder, this is October 2018, the crown prince probably fostered an environment in which aides were afraid that failure to complete assigned tasks might result in him firing or arresting them. This suggests that the aides were unlikely to question Mohammed bin Salman's orders or undertake sensitive actions without his consent. Wait, hold on a second. You mean like a sort of authoritarian? Oh no, I thought only Syria had those people and Iran. What are you talking about? We're allied. The United States is allied with Saudi Arabia. Oh no. The 15-member Saudi team that arrived in Istanbul on October 2nd, 2018, included officials who worked for or were associated with the Saudi Center for Studies in Media Affairs, or at the royal court. At the time of the operation, CS Mark was led by Saud Al-Qahtani, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, a close advisor of Mohammed bin Salman, who claimed publicly in mid-2018 that he did not make decisions without the crown prince's approval. Okay, so you get the picture here. This guy has total control of not just the country, but the security detail and everyone around him. They don't do anything without his consent. So, I mean, if Saudi officials assassinated Khashoggi, which we know they did, then he did. He ordered it. He okayed it, right? The team also included 7 members of Mohammed bin Salman's elite personal protective detail, known as the Rapid Intervention Force, the RIF, a subset of the Saudi Royal Guard, which exists to defend the crown prince. It answers only to him, and had directly participated in earlier dissident suppression operations, both in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and abroad at the Crown Prince's discretion or direction. We judged that members of the RAF would not have participated in the operation against Khashoggi without Mohammed bin Salman's approval. Okay. Now, the Crown Prince viewed Khashoggi as a threat to the kingdom and broadly supported using violent measures, if necessary, to silence him. Although Saudi officials had pre-planned an unspecified operation against Khashoggi, we do not know how far in advance Saudi officials decided to harm him. We have high confidence that the following individuals participated in, ordered, or were otherwise complicit in or responsible for the death of Jamal Khashoggi on behalf of MBS. Now, they list a bunch of names here, and it's important to note a couple of things. So now that the United States intelligence community is officially declaring that they're sure the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, very important ally of the US, murdered a journalist resident in the US, what are the consequences? Are there any consequences? Well, in 2018, there were some consequences, right? So this is from the Department of the Treasury, so the Office of Foreign Assets Control. They're the ones who issue sanctions. So Treasury sanctions 17 individuals for their roles in the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. Okay? So this is not even a month after. They already knew these people were involved. Immediately. Sanctions. All right? So they're freezing their assets. Okay? They're not allowed into the US. And it's very straightforward. Now here we have new sanctions, but not really. Not against MBS. Here's another announcement from the Department of the Treasury. Okay, so they're sanctioning the RAF and the former deputy head of Saudi Arabia's General Intelligence Presidency for roles in the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Okay, so you remember from here the RAF Rapid Intervention Force, that's his security detail, basically his personal bodyguards. They're sanctioning them, right? But not MBS. Isn't that weird? Isn't that odd? So they're freezing their assets, okay? And again, travel restrictions. As a matter of fact, more than just travel restrictions, let me show you this. In regards to arms exports, okay? Sorry, my image disappeared there for a second. In regards to arms exports, maybe, just maybe, offensive weapons. But of course, that's related a bit more to Yemen, which I'll get to in a second. But do you see what's going on here? Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia orders his personal security detail to go and literally assassinate another Saudi journalist, resident in the US, on Turkish soil. They chop his body up into parts and get rid of it. And Biden's response to that, well, first of all, Trump does nothing. He only sanctions people involved, but not directly MBS. Now Biden does the exact same thing. Even though a report just came out from his own administration that they know he ordered it. They're not just saying, yeah, Saudi Arabia did it. Some people from his entourage, son entourage, were involved. No, they're saying we assess that MBS personally ordered this because no one could do this without his permission. That's the environment. That's the intelligence we have. We know that this is the case. They knew this shit back then. We all knew this. We didn't need to wait 3 years for a report. And Biden's response is, no, I'm not doing anything against MBS. I'm going to sanction his personal security detail like a slap on the wrist, right? A little travel ban, but basically, I'm going to punish everyone who didn't order the assassination for the murder of Khashoggi, but not the person who ordered the assassination and murder of Khashoggi. Wow, that's amazing. So I just like to reiterate something that I said on Twitter earlier. You see Joe Biden just 2 weeks ago filing in the UK to appeal against the extradition to extradite Julian Assange, right? The UK decided no, Julian Assange can't be extradited. And what is Joe Biden administration doing? They're appealing that. They want to extradite Julian Assange to the US so he can face 2 centuries in jail for exposing US war crimes. Now, they have an intelligence assessment saying, yeah, we believe the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia killed a journalist resident in the US. We're not going to punish the guy who ordered the assassination, but his entourage. So Joe Biden's administration is telling you clearly now, fuck journalists. Journalists who publish shit about us, we're going to prosecute them. We're going to torture them. We're going to keep them on the run for 10 years. We're going to destroy their physical and mental well-being. And we're still going to prosecute them to face 2 centuries in jail. And our allies who murder journalists, who even live in our country, we're also not going to do shit. Go on. Go ahead. So this means all of his assets, Mohammed bin Salman, they're not frozen in the US, right? Why would they want that, considering he's such a good customer, right? Of course, any good business would never turn away its best customer. Remember, he bought, what is it now, $115 billion worth of weapons from Biden and Obama? Yeah, to kill children in Yemen. And then under Trump, he bought another $300 billion worth of weapons. That's a lot of fucking money for the military-industrial complex. Those are sweet, sweet deals. You don't want to turn him away. You can't freeze his assets. Oh no. How are you going to negotiate energy prices? The oil. What will you do without the oil? Oh no. How are you going to shit all over Iran and Syria if you turn away your best customer? You can't do that. Pretty sure Israel won't like this either, right? Considering that not only are their interests aligned, they both want to destroy Iran and Syria and fund jihadists inside of Syria, give them medical attention. But Israel also developed the app, the hacking software Pegasus that was used to track Khashoggi's location in Istanbul and to assassinate him. Yeah, they sold that to the Saudis. They sell it to a lot of governments, actually, right? They have various iterations of it. Just recently, 36 journalists at Al Jazeera, they had their phones hacked by Pegasus. So, yeah, this is from The Guardian back last year. One of the activists who's talking to Khashoggi brought a case against NSO Group. That's the company that makes this Pegasus software, right? It targets iPhones specifically. And he brought a case against them because they hacked his phone and by extension that of Khashoggi. So we know that Israel is involved. Definitely, no surprise there. I love how that's not even mentioned, right? It's like that's not even brought into the conversation. It's just MBS. No, it's not just MBS. But yeah, once again, just like I was saying before, you know, no accountability. Oh no. Also, it's worth noting over here that it's not just about Khashoggi and a journalist, which is an enormous affront and attack in of itself on press freedoms, on any sort of semblance of, civil liberties, the extraterritorial assassination, and also extrajudicial assassination. It's horrendous, right? It's so bad on so many counts. But on top of that, what about the people of Yemen? I mean, MBS didn't just kill a journalist, a Saudi journalist. He's also complicit in the genocide of the people of Yemen. Where's the accountability of that? Like, if you're not going to hold him accountable or sanction him for murdering Khashoggi, which is unbelievable considering he's a U.S. resident, you're not going to hold him accountable for committing genocide against the Yemeni people? How many have died in the war in Yemen? I don't think we'll ever know the real figure, again, because there are so many casualties. But we're talking about hundreds of thousands, right? The majority of them are civilians. The vast majority of them are civilians. Indiscriminately bombed, starved. It's just unbelievable. Those are done with British, Canadian, German, French, American weapons. No one's going to hold them accountable. No sanctions. Crazy. It's really crazy because if I recall correctly, the West, the United States, the European Union, all these countries, they put tons of sanctions on Syria, right? For human rights abuses. They even sanctioned Assad's kid. Like, the guy is barely 18. They sanctioned also Venezuela, right? Iran, Cuba, North Korea, the list goes on and on. Always in the name of human rights abuses, right? These regimes, they're so evil. They crack down on dissidents. They murder journalists and jail political dissidents, and they commit acts of aggression against their own populations. What is this? How does MBS not fit all of those qualifications? Unbelievable, right? It's so weird. It's so weird. I thought the United States hated totalitarian systems. I thought they hated countries that commit severe human rights abuses and commit genocide. How weird, how odd, right? For a country that bombs and invades half the planet in the name of democracy. Idem ergo for Great Britain, right? How weird. And, there's an interesting clip here from Ro Khanna. I keep bringing this up, but I think it's important. His wife has, if I recall correctly, stocks in 7 different weapons manufacturers. She has, I don't know if this is being fair. She has stocks in a lot of companies. That I will admit. If you go and look at them, it's unbelievable, right? So I guess, maybe she accidentally invested in them. Whatever excuse you want to come up with. But in any case, here's Ro Khanna, not his wife, Ro Khanna talking about this matter. So let me play this clip for you.
The U.S.-Saudi relationship isn't bigger than human rights. It's not bigger than our belief in the dignity of every individual. We have to understand MBS's crime is not just the hacking of Khashoggi, a journalist, as brutal as that is. His crime is one against Yemen. They've been bombing women and children there for years. They are not letting in food and medicine. It's the greatest humanitarian catastrophe, and it's important to understand that's why they killed Khashoggi, because Khashoggi had the courage to speak out against that crisis. There is no way MBS should be allowed to set foot in the United States. I can't believe that they wouldn't revoke that. And we need to make sure that the Saudis lift the embargo, that they stop the bombing campaign, that they stop funding the greatest humanitarian crisis in the world.
Hey, I have no disagreements with what he just said. Yeah, straight up. When he says something right, I'm not going to shit on him. He's right. And if I recall correctly, he was one of the main proponents of, with Bernie Sanders, along with Bernie Sanders, to withdraw U.S. support from the Saudi-led genocide against Yemen. And of course, Trump vetoed it. Yeah, he's a bastard. It's Donald Trump. But, Ro Khanna, I think he's been quite consistent on Yemen. So I respect that. I'm not going to say anything. We're not just here to shit on people. He's right. Everything he said here. It's not just about Khashoggi. It's about MBS's crimes against the Yemeni people. The guy is a genocidal maniac. He's bought. What do you call? I'm pretty sure when you buy hundreds of billions of dollars worth of weapons to murder civilians, that makes you a genocidal maniac. I think that should be up there for what qualifies as a genocidal maniac. Pretty sure. That's a lot of fucking weapons. That is an exorbitant amounts of weapons. The deal that he did with Trump, the $300+ billion, that's the biggest armament sale in history. It doesn't get bigger than that, does it? So nonetheless, I also can't believe that technically speaking, not technically, just plainly, Mohammed bin Salman could just set foot in the United States tomorrow. Yes, I killed someone who resides here and I'm not going to be held accountable. Wow. Once again, it's important to remind Americans who are listening that this is not just an affront on journalists or, Khashoggi. It's an affront, and Yemen, of course, as well. But it's an affront on you. If your own government is letting murderers walk free, that what do you call that? They're not serving you exactly, are they? If tomorrow morning you decided to become a staunch critic of Saudi Arabia, does that mean they're going to let MBS come and murder you? How do you feel about that? That should scare you a little, I think. No? It shouldn't don't let them scare you. Fuck them. That's what they want. Never be scared to speak the truth. They can eat my fucking ass. Fuck Saudi Arabia. Not the people of Saudi Arabia, but, the goddamn bastards who are ruling it, who are just puppets of the United States and Israel. It's always important to draw a distinction, right? When we talk about the United States or the United Kingdom or Israel or United or Saudi Arabia or any country, we're not saying all the human beings, every single one of them in that country is, beyond redemption and they're all evil. No, we're talking about the leadership specifically. All right. Although when it comes to Israel, I mean, illegal settlers, man, you're illegal settlers. I mean, you're stealing someone else's land. There's just no way around that. But again, you understand my point here. So this is really fucked up, right? It's really a shame. I made this point earlier that we have so many Arabs against each other, pitted against each other, right? Like, it's not really, I mean, the entirety of humankind shouldn't really be pitted against each other, right? I know I'm not on some hippie bullshit right now, but it's true, man. We should opt for peace rather than war. And my point here is that, Arabs, we have a shared geography, right? Like you could technically walk all the way from Saudi Arabia to Morocco, right? That's a shared landmass, a shared geography. We have a shared language. We have a shared history, a shared culture, right? And a shared religion or religions, right? Because even though they won't teach you this at school or especially not in the media, yes, we are pluralistic in not just our ethnicities, but, also our religions, right? That's why I love Syria. I think it's beautiful. It's really the true melting pot. It's really an example of that, a model. And so my point is that you have all these countries, right? The Arab world, they're all next to each other. They have the same language, history, culture, and yet they're pitted against each other. Like we've been more divided than we've ever been at this point. It's a shame. It's a shame, right? That we have some of them being ruled by Western puppets or in the best case, who are inadvertently doing the bidding of the West, if you want to put it that way, if you want to put it mildly. It's not true, though. It's worse than that. And, it's like we're alienated from each other. It's horrendous. I'm getting a little sidetracked there, but nonetheless, I think it's important to raise that. And I also, if you'll just give me a moment, I thought these were great points by Elijah Manier. So I've interviewed him before. He's great. He's a veteran war correspondent. This is the point that he made. He said the United States wants to punish Saudi Arabia. It won't, by the way, all this is a charade, for killing Khashoggi and not for killing tens of thousands in Yemen. Is this the United States measure of human rights? Why not ask him about the execution of prominent cleric Sheikh Nimr al-Nimr? I mean, this is an excellent point. This is an excellent point. The new Joe Biden administration wants to flirt with the U.S. media only, and Biden will protect the U.S.-Saudi relationship, and Saudi Arabia will pay the money to this administration, as it has done to every single administration, and bought the U.S. decision makers. Nothing new. Where's the lie, man? They are all bots, right? It's just a question of figuring out by who and how much. And another excellent point here that I would raise, not that I raised, Ali Abu Nima raised this, right, from Electronic Intifada. He said that, why did the United States directly blame MBS for the Khashoggi murder, but then exempt him from consequences, at least for now? I suspect the price MBS will pay for such leniency is to push ahead with full Saudi normalization with the Zionist occupation entity in Palestine. Ha. Now we are getting somewhere. Yeah. He's right. That could be the real price. And we, of course, we know under the table, Saudi Arabia is already like this with Israel. I mean, we all know this, just like we know Israel was in cahoots with Bahrain and the UAE before. We know. And especially with Saudi Arabia, right? They're just waiting. They're trying to lube people up. The Abraham Accords, that was just the beginning. The big one is coming, right, with Saudi Arabia. So, and even then there were talks it's coming, right? There were rumors, oh my God, it's going to happen. And they were talking about letting flights over Saudi Arabian airspace. And, this is how they lube you up. You'll have little whispers in the media and say, oh my God, it's coming. Yeah, they get you ready for it, right? That's a good one. I think that's an excellent point that he raises. I think that's an excellent point. I wouldn't be surprised if they normalize ties tomorrow morning. Wouldn't be surprised. By the way, a little fun fact, if you didn't know this, I think around 2002, the entire Arab League, oh, by the way, I'll mention them in a second. The entire Arab League offered Israel a deal, right? It was basically like, we will stop all wars and conflicts with you. We will all recognize you, basically normalize ties with you, right? That means recognize Israel as a state, and we will engage in trade and diplomatic relations and travel and tourism and all this stuff. If you go back to the original 67 borders and give Palestinians a state. And Israel was like, nope. To be fair, Syria was actually the most pissed about that. Like, they were like, we are not normalizing ties with the Israelis. No fucking way. Now, if we're being honest, I don't think Syria has always been fair to the Palestinians. There are many. I mean, you could say this about all the Arab countries. I think Jazair, I think Algeria, they've come through the most correct with the Palestinians, right? But there have been times in Syria's history and other Arab countries where they've really failed the Palestinians, and it's a shame. But generally speaking, especially now in 2021, why do you think Syria is in the state that it's in? Why do you think it's being bombed left and right by 20 countries? I mean, okay, a dozen countries and 20 other factions. Why do you think it's in this state of disarray? Part of the reason, not all of it, but a large part of it, is because of its animosity and, let's say its sour relations with Israel. I mean, they're technically still in a state of war, right? Technically, people would say not really, but if we're speaking in practical terms, they are, right? I mean, my parents, they were working in the peacekeeping mission at the Golan Heights, right? UNDOF, United Nations Disengagement and Observer Force, if I got it correctly. All these UN peacekeeping missions have huge names, UNAVEM, and UNRWA was the relief agency in Palestine. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, Syria is always consistent in that regard. They're not going to normalize ties easily. No way, especially if Syria doesn't have the Golan Heights back. But anyway, we're getting a bit off topic here, right? I just thought these were great points to show you. And, my takeaway from this, what I think is the most astonishing is that, Joe Biden and his administration, as predicted, they're just showing you again that they have no problem with persecuting journalists. They have no problem letting Julian Assange rot away in a jail cell and charging him, with this bogus indictment that was cooked up by the Trump administration, 175 years in jail. And now when Saudi Arabia murders a resident Saudi journalist on U.S. soil, well, he's resident on U.S. soil, but he was murdered in Turkey. They don't care either. They're not going to hold anyone accountable. Wow. Where's the difference? Please show me the difference again now between Trump and Biden. There's literally no difference. Yeah, they issue like a slap on the wrist, but it's always for his entourage and not him, for MBS. It's unbelievable. Like every single thing you look at is just the same old nonsense, man. They just won't quit. And I just want to show you also over here in terms of Yemen, what's going on, right?